Fire the seductive alien hunted lovers. Until she met an unbreakable human. Kale Draven wasn't the kind of man who liked surprises. He flew cargo ships across the galaxy for a living, simple runs, decent pay, no questions asked. His ship, the Stellar Fawn, was his home, a beat-up freighter with a cockpit that smelled of burnt circuits and stale coffee. He liked it that way. No fuss, no mess. Just him, the stars, and the hum of engines. So when his latest job, a trade drop to the edge of the Orion Arm, went sideways, he wasn't thrilled. The client had said it was a quick in and out, deliver a crate of rare minerals to a planet called Voron, grab the credits, and leave. Easy. Except the Stellar Fawn hit a meteor storm mid-flight, and now Kale was plummeting through Voron's violet atmosphere, alarms screaming in his ears. The crash was ugly. Metal groaned as the ship slammed into a jungle of glowing vines and jagged rocks. Kale's head spun, but he was alive, bruised, pissed off, but alive. He kicked open the cockpit hatch, grabbed his survival pack, and stumbled out into the alien world. The air was thick, sweet, almost too sweet, like it was trying to choke him with perfume. The trees shimmered with bioluminescent streaks, and the ground pulsed faintly under his boots. He didn't like it. Too alive. Too weird. He checked his wrist. Dead. The ship's beacon was fried too. Great. Stranded on a planet he'd never heard of, with no way to call for help. He muttered a curse and started walking, hoping to find something useful. That's when he saw her. She emerged from the shadows like she owned the place, and maybe she did. Tall, towering over Kale's 6-foot frame, with skin that shimmered gold under the alien sun. Her body was a mix of power and grace, muscles rippling beneath curves that didn't seem natural. Her eyes glowed faintly, a deep amber that locked onto him like a predator sizing up dinner. She wore a flowing robe, open at the sides, revealing more than it hid. Kale froze. He'd seen a lot in his years, pirates, smugglers, rogue AIs, but nothing like her. She was beautiful, sure, but the kind of beautiful that made you wonder if you'd live to tell the story. "You're human," she said, her voice smooth and low, like a song you couldn't shake. It wasn't a question. She stepped closer, her bare feet silent on the pulsing ground. "I've never tasted one before." Kale's hand twitched toward the pistol on his hip. "Tasted? Lady, I'm not on the menu." He kept his tone light, but his heart was pounding. Something about her set every nerve on edge, not just her looks, but the way the air seemed to bend around her, heavy with intent. She smiled, sharp and slow. "I am Lysara, Queen of the Varinthi. This is my world. And you, human, have trespassed." She tilted her head, studying him. "My kind takes what we need from those who wander too close. Strength. Life. Essence. It keeps us alive. But you're different. I can feel it." Kale didn't like where this was going. "Look, I'm just a pilot. Crashed here by accident. I don't want trouble. How about I fix my ship and get out of your hair, or whatever you've got up there?" He nodded at the cascade of silvery strands framing her face. Lysara laughed, a sound that echoed through the jungle and made the vines shiver. "Leave? No, human. You don't understand. You've landed in my domain, and that makes you mine. But I'm curious. My lovers, warriors, princes, fools, they all fall to me. They give themselves willingly, and I take everything. Yet you stand there, unafraid. Why?" "Maybe I'm just too dumb to run," Kale said, forcing a grin. Truth was, he'd faced death before, pirate raids, engine failures, bar fights gone wrong. Fear didn't stick to him the way it did to most people. Plus, he wasn't about to let some alien queen, no matter how gorgeous, turn him into a snack. Her eyes narrowed, but there was a spark in them, interest, maybe. I could kill you now, she said. Drain you dry and leave your husk for the vines. But that would be boring. I've had enough of easy prey. She stepped closer, close enough that Kale could smell her, a mix of spice and something electric. Let's make a game of it. Survive my bonding rite, and I'll let you live. Maybe even help you. Fail, and you're mine forever. Kale raised an eyebrow. Bonding rite? Sounds like a bad date. What's the catch? It's simple, Lasara said, circling him like a cat. I link my essence to yours. Mind, body, soul, all tied to me. My kind uses it to claim mates, to take what we need. Most don't survive. Their wills break, their bodies crumble. But you, human. I want to see if you're strong enough. And if I say no? Kale asked, already knowing the answer. Then you die now, she replied, her smile fading. No game. No chance. Just dust. Kale weighed his options. Fight? She'd probably snap him in half before he drew his gun. Run. No ship, no map, no hope. Play her game. Risky, but it bought him time. And time was something he could work with. He'd talked his way out of worse messes than this. Maybe he could outsmart her too. All right, he said, meeting her gaze. I'm in. But when I win, you're fixing my ship. Deal? Lasara's smile returned, wider this time. Bold. I like that. We begin tonight, under the twin moons. Prepare yourself, human. You'll need more than luck. She turned and vanished into the jungle, leaving Kale alone with the hum of the vines and a sinking feeling in his gut. He rummaged through his pack, pulling out a dented flask of whiskey. He took a long swig, the burn steadying his nerves. Kale, you idiot, he muttered. What have you gotten yourself into? Night fell fast on Vorin. The sky turned a deep purple, streaked with two glowing moons that cast eerie shadows across the jungle. Kale sat by the wreckage of his ship, sharpening a piece of metal into a crude knife. He didn't know what this bonding rite involved, but he wasn't going in defenseless. The air grew heavier as the hours passed, charged with something he couldn't name. Then he heard it, a low hum, like a song carried on the wind. Lasara was coming. She appeared again, this time in a robe of midnight blue that shimmered like liquid. Her eyes glowed brighter, and the air around her crackled with energy. Are you ready, human? She asked, her voice wrapping around him like a rope. Kale stood, brushing dirt off his jacket. Ready as I'll ever be. Let's get this over with. Lasara raised her hands, and the ground beneath them pulsed harder. A circle of light flared around Kale, warm at first, then searing. He gritted his teeth as it sank into his skin, his bones, his mind. It wasn't pain, not exactly, but it was overwhelming, like every part of him was being pulled apart and stitched back together. He heard her voice inside his head, soft and commanding. Don't fight it. Let me in. Kale's knees buckled, but he didn't fall. He focused on the whiskey burn still lingering in his throat, the hum of his ship's engines in his memory, anything to anchor himself. He wasn't some alien prince begging to be her toy. He was Kale Draven, and he didn't break easy. Lasara's eyes widened as he steadied himself. You're still standing, she whispered, almost to herself. Impossible. Guess I'm full of surprises, Kale rasped, forcing a smirk. Inside, he felt her strength, her hunger, her curiosity. The bond was real, and it wasn't done with him yet. Kale Draven stood in the glowing circle, his boots planted firm on the pulsing ground of Vorin. The air buzzed with energy, thick and alive, as Lasara's bonding rite sank deeper into him. It wasn't just heat or pressure now, it was her. Her presence crawled through his veins, a mix of fire and ice that made his head spin. He could feel her thoughts brushing against his own, not words exactly, but flashes of emotion, hunger, power, and something softer, like a question she didn't want to ask. He clenched his fists, fighting to keep his mind his own. He wasn't about to let some alien queen, no matter how stunning, turn him into a puppet. Lasara watched him, her amber eyes glowing brighter under the twin moons. She stood just outside the circle, her midnight blue robe rippling in a breeze Kale couldn't feel. "You're stubborn," she said, her voice echoing inside his skull as much as in the air. "Most collapse by now. Their minds shatter, their bodies give out. But you resist." "Had a lot of practice," Kale grunted, wiping sweat from his brow. His knees trembled, but he locked them in place. He'd survived crash landings, bar brawls, and a smuggling run gone so bad he'd spent a week hiding in a cargo crate. This was just another mess to figure out. He focused on the weight of the crude knife tucked in his belt, the familiar scratch of his jacket against his skin. Little things, human things, to remind him who he was. The circle flared again, and a jolt shot through him, sharp, electric, like touching a live wire. He stumbled, catching himself with a hand on the ground. Lasara stepped closer, her shadow falling over him. "The bond is deepening," she said. "Your essence is merging with mine. If you fight too hard, it'll tear you apart. Let go, human. Give in." Kale laughed, rough and low. "Give in? Lady, I don't even surrender to gravity." He pushed himself back up, meeting her gaze. Her eyes flickered, surprise, maybe, or something else. He didn't care. He wasn't here to impress her. He was here to survive. The energy shifted, wrapping tighter around him. It wasn't just physical now, it was in his head, pulling at memories. He saw flashes, his first solo flight, the roar of the Stellar Fong's engines, the taste of cheap whiskey after a long haul. Then came her memories, uninvited. A golden throne in a vast hall, warriors kneeling before her, their faces pale and lifeless as she drained them. Kale's stomach twisted. This was what she did, seduced, consumed, discarded. But there was more, a shadow looming over her world, a threat she couldn't name. Fear. She hid it well, but it was there. "You're scared," he said, the words slipping out before he could stop them. Her face hardened, and the bond pulsed harder, like a warning. He pressed on. "Something's coming, isn't it? That's why you're doing this. You need me." Lasara's lips tightened. "You see too much, human. The bond isn't yours to control." She raised a hand, and the circle tightened, squeezing the air from his lungs. Pain flared, but Kale didn't scream. He'd felt worse. He dug deep, picturing the cockpit of his ship, the stars streaking past. He wasn't dying here. Not like this. Then something clicked. The bond wasn't just her pulling at him, it went both ways. He could feel her, so maybe he could push back. He focused, not on resisting, but on reaching out. He thought of fire, of the stubborn, messy, unbreakable spark that kept humans going when everything else failed. He shoved it toward her, raw and unpolished, through the connection. Lasara gasped, staggering back. The circle dimmed, and Kale sucked in a ragged breath. What was that?" she demanded, her voice unsteady. For the first time, she looked shaken, her perfect control slipping. "Me," Kale said, grinning despite the ache in his bones. "That's what humans are. Messy as hell, but we don't quit. You wanted a taste. There you go." She stared at him, her chest rising and falling fast. The jungle around them went quiet, the vines still as if holding their breath. "No one has ever done that," she said finally. Pushed back. "You shouldn't be able to." "Guess I'm special," Kale replied, leaning against a rock to steady himself. His head throbbed, but he felt alive, more alive than he had in years. The bond was still there, humming between them, but it wasn't crushing him anymore. It was different. Balanced, almost. Lasara stepped into the circle, closing the distance. Up close, she was even more striking, golden skin shimmering, eyes like molten suns. But there was a crack in her armor now, a flicker of doubt. "You survived the first phase," she said. "That's never happened. Not with my kind. Not with anyone. So I win?" Kale asked, half joking. "Not yet," she said, her tone sharp. "The rite has 3 phases. Strength, will, and unity. You've passed strength. Will comes next. If you break, you're still mine. If you don't," she trailed off, her gaze lingering on him. "Then what?" he pressed. "Then you might be more than a lover," she said softly. "More than prey." Kale didn't know what to make of that. He didn't trust her, not fully, but he couldn't deny the pull between them. It wasn't just her power or her beauty. It was the challenge. She was a puzzle, and he'd always been too stubborn to leave a puzzle unsolved. Before he could respond, a distant rumble shook the ground. Lasara's head snapped up, her eyes narrowing. "Zoran," she muttered, like a curse. She turned to Kale. "The rite must wait. My enemy approaches. If he finds you here, he'll kill us both." "Who's Zoran?" Kale asked, already reaching for his knife. He didn't like the sound of this. "A warlord," Lasara said, her voice tight. "He wants my throne, my power. He's been hunting me for years. And now you've made yourself a target." "Great," Kale muttered. "Crash on a planet, meet a killer queen, and now I've got a warlord after me. This day just keeps getting better." Lasara didn't smile. She grabbed his arm, her grip strong but not cruel. "Come with me. My palace isn't far. We can hold him off there, if you're as strong as you think you are." Kale pulled free, but he nodded. "Lead the way. But I'm not your pet. We're in this together, or I'm out." She studied him for a moment, then inclined her head. "Together, then. For now." They moved fast through the jungle, the twin moons lighting their path. The bond hummed between them, sharper now, like it was waking up. Kale felt her urgency, her anger, and something else, trust, maybe, or the start of it. He didn't know what this Zoran guy was bringing, but he'd faced worse odds. Probably. The palace loomed ahead, a sprawling structure of black stone and glowing crystal. It looked like something out of a dream, beautiful, dangerous, and way too big for Kale's taste. Lasara led him inside, past guards in sleek armor who stared at him like he was a ghost. She took him to a high chamber with a view of the jungle, the walls lined with strange, pulsing tech. "Zoran's scouts will be here soon," she said, standing by a window. "He'll test my defenses. If he knows about you, he'll come harder." "Then let's give him a surprise," Kale said, cracking his knuckles. "I'm good at improvising. What's this rite's next phase?" "Will, right? Let's finish it. If I'm stronger, we both are." Lasara turned, her expression unreadable. "You'd risk that now? With an enemy at the gates?" "Better now than never," Kale said. "I don't like waiting around to get stabbed in the back. Let's do it." She hesitated, then nodded. "Very well. The will phase is different. It's not about resisting me, it's about facing yourself. Through me. If you falter, you lose everything." "Bring it on," Kale said, bracing himself. Lasara raised her hands again, and the room faded. The bond roared to life, pulling Kale into a void. He wasn't on Voron anymore, he was inside his own head, or hers, or both. Shadows moved around him, taking shape. His past. His fears. A younger Kale, running from a burning ship. A voice telling him he'd never be enough. Lysara's voice cut through it. Face it, human. Prove you're more than this. Kale gritted his teeth. He'd spent years burying this stuff, failure, doubt, the times he'd almost given up. But he wasn't that kid anymore. He stepped forward, into the shadows, and they shattered. The void cleared, and he was back in the chamber, breathing hard. Lysara stared at him, wide-eyed. You broke it, she said. No one's ever broken the will phase so fast. Told you, Kale said, wiping blood from his nose. I'm stubborn. Before she could reply, an explosion rocked the palace. Zoran was here. The explosion shook the palace like a fist slamming into glass. Dust rained from the ceiling, and the glowing crystals along the walls flickered wildly. Kale Draven stumbled, catching himself against a table as the floor trembled beneath him. Lysara, queen of the Varinthi, stood steady, her amber eyes narrowing as she stared out the chamber's wide window. Beyond the black stone walls, the jungle burned, streaks of orange and red cutting through the violet night. Zoran had arrived, and he wasn't here to talk. His scouts found us faster than I thought, Lysara said, her voice tight with something Kale hadn't heard before, worry. She turned to him, her midnight blue robe swirling around her. You've passed 2 phases of the bonding rite. You're stronger than I expected, human. But this isn't a game anymore. Zoran will kill you just to spite me. Kale wiped the blood from his nose, still reeling from the will phase. Facing his past in that void had been brutal, but he'd come out swinging. Now, with the bond humming between him and Lysara, he felt sharper, more alive. Good thing I'm not easy to kill, he said, flashing a crooked grin. What's this guy's deal? Big army? Fancy weapons? Zoran is a warlord, Lysara replied, moving to a console embedded in the wall. She tapped it, and a hologram flickered to life, a towering figure in spiked armor, his skin a dull gray, his eyes black pits. He commands the outcast Varinthi, those who reject my rule. He wants my throne, my power, and the essence I draw from my bonds. He thinks I'm weak because I've spared you. Spared me? Kale raised an eyebrow. Thought I earned that. She didn't answer, but the bond pulsed with a flicker of amusement. It was strange, feeling her like this, her emotions bleeding into his. He shook it off and joined her at the console. Alright, so he's a bully with a grudge. How do we stop him? Lysara's fingers danced over the controls, pulling up a map of the palace. His scouts will breach the outer walls soon. My guards can slow them, but Zoran himself will come for me. He always does. We need to hold the central tower, it's the strongest point. Kale studied the map, his pilot's brain kicking in. He'd spent years dodging asteroid fields and pirate traps, this wasn't so different. Got any ships? Something fast. I could draw them off, hit them from above. No ships, Lysara said. Varinthi don't fight like humans. We use the land, our strength, our essence. But, she hesitated, glancing at him. Your way might work. There's an old skimmer in the lower bay, broken, but you're resourceful. Broken's my specialty, Kale said. Point me to it. She led him through the palace, down winding stairs and past more guards who stared at him like he was a walking miracle. The bond kept them in sync, her steps matched his, her breathing steadying his own. It wasn't just survival now, it was something more. Trust, maybe. Or the start of it. The lower bay was a cavernous room filled with dust and forgotten tech. The skimmer sat in the corner, a sleek, wing-shaped craft with a cracked hull and dead engines. Kale ran his hands over it, grinning. Oh, you're a beauty. Give me 10 minutes. You have 5, Lysara said, crossing her arms. Another explosion rocked the palace, closer this time. She turned to the guards. Hold the perimeter. Buy us time. Kale didn't waste a second. He popped the skimmer's panel, digging into wires and circuits with the tools from his survival pack. The bond buzzed in his head, Lasara's impatience mixing with his focus. "Stop hovering," he muttered. "I work better alone." "You're not alone," she shot back, but she stepped away, watching the entrance. 5 minutes later, the skimmer hummed to life, its engine spitting sparks but holding steady. Cale climbed in, gripping the controls. "Hop on," he said. "We're taking the fight to them." Lasara hesitated, then slid in behind him, her body pressed close. The bond flared at the contact, warm and electric. "Don't crash," she warned. "No promises," Cale replied, and gunned the throttle. The skimmer shot out of the bay, weaving through the jungle as blasts lit the sky. Zoran's scouts, hulking Varinthi in jagged armor, fired at them, their weapons spitting green energy. Cale dodged, banking hard, his hands steady on the controls. Lasara leaned forward, her voice sharp. "There, his vanguard. Take us low." Cale dropped the skimmer, skimming the ground. Lasara raised her hands, and a wave of golden light pulsed from her, slamming into the enemy line. The scouts staggered, some collapsing, their essence drained by her power. Cale whooped. "Now that's a trick. Keep it up." They worked together, Cale weaving through the chaos while Lasara struck from above. The bond made it seamless, her instincts guiding his turns, his reflexes sharpening her aim. For a moment, it felt like they could win. Then the palace shuddered again, a massive blast tearing through the outer wall. Zoran wasn't playing anymore. The skimmer screeched as Cale pulled it back toward the central tower. "He's got heavy guns," he said, scanning the horizon. A shadow moved through the smoke, a giant figure, Zoran himself, leading a wave of warriors. "We need a plan B." "Hold the tower," Lasara said. "It's our last stand." They landed hard, the skimmer skidding across the tower's base. Cale grabbed his knife and pistol, following Lasara inside. The tower was a fortress, thick walls, glowing defenses, but Zoran's forces were relentless. Guards fell as the enemy breached the lower levels, their roars echoing up the stairs. "We can't fight them head-on," Cale said, his mind racing. "Got any tricks left?" Lasara nodded, pressing a hand to the wall. The bond flared, and Cale felt a surge of her power, raw, ancient, tied to the planet itself. "The tower's core," she said. "It amplifies my essence. If I channel it, I can push them back. But I need you to anchor me." "Anchor you?" Cale asked. "The bond," she said, meeting his eyes. "You're part of me now. If you hold steady, I can use it. If you break, we both die." Cale didn't hesitate. "Do it." She closed her eyes, and the room pulsed with golden light. Cale felt it, her essence flooding through him, overwhelming, like standing in a storm. He braced himself, focusing on the hum of the skimmer, the weight of his flask, anything to stay grounded. The light exploded outward, slamming into Zoran's forces. Warriors screamed, collapsing as their strength drained away. It worked, until it didn't. A figure stepped through the fading light, unscathed. Zoran. Up close, he was a monster, gray skin stretched over muscle, eyes burning with hate. "You think your tricks will stop me, Lasara," he growled. "And you, human, your stench ruins her." Cale raised his pistol, but before he could fire, a voice cut through the chaos. "My queen, step aside." It was Tyron, Lasara's advisor, a slim Varinthi with cold eyes. He'd been quiet until now, shadowing them through the fight. Cale hadn't trusted him from the start. Lasara turned, confused. "Tyron? What?" Tyron moved fast, a blade flashing in his hand. It sank into Lasara's side, and she gasped, staggering. The bond screamed in Cale's head, pain, betrayal, rage. He lunged, tackling Tyron to the ground, his knife at the traitor's throat. "Why?" he snarled. "For Zoran," Tyron spat. "She's weak with you. He'll make us strong." Zoran laughed, advancing. "Kill them both, human. It won't save her." Kale didn't think. He drove the knife into Tyron's chest, then spun to Lysara. She was on her knees, golden blood pooling around her. The bond flickered, weakening. "Stay with me," Kale said, hauling her up. "We're not done." Her eyes met his, dim but fierce. "The core, finish it. I'll guide you." Kale dragged her to the tower's center, a glowing pillar of crystal. Zoran's footsteps thundered behind them. Kale slammed his hand against the core, and Lysara's voice whispered in his mind, "Push. Everything you have." He did. The bond roared, pulling his strength, human, messy, stubborn, and blending it with hers. The core flared, brighter than before, and a shockwave erupted. Zoran roared as it hit him, driving him back through the wall into the jungle below. The tower went still. Lysara slumped against Kale, breathing shallowly. You did it," she whispered. "Not alone," Kale said, holding her up. The bond was faint, but it was there. They weren't safe yet, Zoran was alive, and the fight wasn't over. But for now, they'd won. The tower stood silent, its walls scarred from the battle. Dust hung in the air, glowing faintly under the twin moon's light filtering through the shattered window. Kale Draven knelt beside Lysara, his hands pressed against the wound in her side. Golden blood stained his fingers, warm and slick, but her breathing was steady now, shallow, but steady. The bond between them flickered like a weak signal, but it held. She wasn't slipping away. Not yet. Outside, the jungle was quiet, Zoran's forces scattered or dead after the core's shockwave. But Kale knew it wasn't over. A guy like Zoran didn't stay down long. Lysara's amber eyes fluttered open, locking onto his. "You're still here," she said, her voice hoarse. "Why?" "Couldn't leave you bleeding on the floor," Kale replied, forcing a grin despite the ache in his bones. "Plus, I'm not big on losing. We started this together, we finish it together." She studied him, a faint smile tugging at her lips. The bond pulsed, gratitude, maybe, or something deeper. "You're not like the others," she said. "My lovers, my enemies, they all wanted something. Power, glory, me. You just want to live." "Living's a good start," Kale said, helping her sit up against the glowing core. "But I wouldn't mind getting off this planet in one piece. You owe me a ship, remember?" Her laugh was weak but real, echoing in the empty chamber. "Bold as ever, human. But Zoran's still out there. He'll come back. Stronger. Then we'll be ready," Kale said, standing. He offered her a hand, and she took it, her grip firm despite the wound. The bond flared at the touch, steadying them both. "Let's figure out what we've got left." They moved through the tower, stepping over debris and fallen guards. The place was a wreck, walls cracked, tech sparking, but the core still hummed, its light a lifeline. Lysara leaned on Kale as they reached a lower chamber, where a few surviving guards waited. Their eyes widened at the sight of her, alive, and Kale, the human who shouldn't be standing. "My queen," one said, bowing. "We thought." "I'm not dead yet," Lysara cut in, her voice regaining its edge. "Report." Zoran retreated, the guard said. "His vanguard's gone, but he took half his forces into the jungle. He'll regroup. Tyron's betrayal weakened us, too many trusted him." Lysara's jaw tightened, and Kale felt her anger through the bond. "Tyron paid for it," he said, patting the knife at his belt. "Now we need a plan. He's coming back, and I'm guessing he's pissed." The guards exchanged glances, unsure what to make of this human giving orders. Lysara nodded. He's right. Zoran won't stop until I'm gone, or he is. We fortify the tower, use the core again if we must. Kale frowned, his pilot's mind spinning. That shockwave was a one-shot deal, wasn't it? We need something else. Something he won't expect. He paced, kicking a piece of rubble. What's he after? Your throne, sure, but what else? My essence, Lysara said, straightening despite the pain. It's what fuels my rule, my strength. He thinks he can take it, use it to control Voron. Then we use that, Kale said, stopping mid-step. Bait him. Draw him in, hit him where it hurts. Lysara raised an eyebrow. You want me to play weak? I want him to think you are, Kale corrected. He's arrogant. He'll bite. Then we drop the hammer. She considered it, then nodded. It's reckless. But it might work. My guards can spread word, say I'm injured, dying. He'll come fast. The plan took shape quickly. The guards sent out fake distress signals, whispering through Varinthi channels that Lysara was fading, the human dead. Kale and Lysara retreated to the core chamber, rigging what was left of the palace's defenses, energy traps, collapsing walls, anything to slow Zoran down. Kale even patched the skimmer, parking it near the tower's edge as a last resort. The bond kept them in sync, her alien instincts blending with his human improvisation. It was strange, working so close, but it felt right. Hours passed, the moon sinking lower. Then the jungle erupted, Zoran's forces charging the tower, a dark tide of armor and fury. He led them, a hulking shadow roaring orders. Kale peeked from the chamber, Lysara at his side. Showtime, he muttered. The traps worked at first, energy blasts frying scouts, walls crushing warriors. But Zoran powered through, his gray skin shrugging off damage. He reached the tower's base, his voice booming. Lysara. Your human toy's gone. Your time's up. Face me. Lysara squeezed Kale's arm, her eyes fierce. Now. She stepped out, leaning on the wall, golden blood streaking her robe. Zoran, she called, her voice trembling, fake, but convincing. You win. Take it. He laughed, climbing the stairs. Pathetic. I'll drain you dry. His warriors followed, eager for the kill. Kale waited, hidden by the core. The bond thrummed, Lysara's signal. As Zoran reached her, Kale sprang, slamming a charged rod, salvaged from the skimmer, into Zoran's back. It sparked, and Zoran roared, staggering. Lysara struck next, her essence flaring through the bond, amplified by Kale's touch. Golden light lashed out, burning into Zoran's chest. He didn't go down easy. He swung, catching Kale with a fist that sent him crashing into the wall. Pain exploded, but Kale rolled, grabbing his pistol. Stay down, he yelled, firing. The shots didn't pierce Zoran's armor, but they distracted him. Lysara seized the moment, channeling the core's last reserves. The bond pulled Kale in, his stubborn will fueling her power. Light erupted, blinding, and Zoran screamed as it consumed him, essence, armor, all of it, leaving only ash. The tower went still. The surviving warriors fled, their leader gone. Kale slumped against the wall, breathing hard. Lysara sank beside him, her wound bleeding again but her eyes alive. We did it, she said, almost disbelieving. Yeah, Kale rasped, grinning. Told you I'm hard to kill. She laughed, soft and tired. The bond settled, warm and steady, a thread tying them together. They sat there, the jungle quiet around them, until the guards returned, awestruck. My queen, one said. Zoran's dead. The throne is yours. And his, Lysara added, glancing at Kale. He's earned it. Kale blinked. Wait, what? You're bonded to me, she said, standing with effort. You fought for Vorin. My people will see you as more than human now. A guardian. A king, if you choose. Kale stared, the weight of it sinking in. He'd come here to deliver cargo, not rule a planet. But the bond, her eyes, the fire in his chest, it all said something else. I'm no king, he said finally. But I'll stick around. Someone's gotta keep you out of trouble. Her smile was sharp, approving. Then we forged something new. Vorin and Earth, together. Days later, Kale stood on the palace balcony, the jungle sprawling below. Lysara was beside him, healed enough to stand tall. A human ship, a rescue craft, hovered on the horizon, answering the beacon he'd rigged. He could leave, go back to his old life. But the bond hummed, and Vorin called to him, endless possibilities, challenges, a world he'd helped save. Going? Lysara asked, her voice neutral but her eyes searching. Kale took a swig from his flask, then handed it to her. Not yet. Got a throne to figure out. And a ship to rebuild. She took the flask, sipping, and grinned. Good. I'd hate to lose my anchor. The ship landed, and humans stepped out, staring at Kale and the alien queen like they'd walked into a myth. He waved them over, already planning. Varinthi and humans, side by side, it was crazy, messy, and perfect. A new story, one he'd write himself. The jungle stretched on, alive with secrets. Zorin was gone, but others might rise. Kale didn't care. He'd faced worse and come out stronger. With Lysara, with the bond, he'd face anything. The stars waited, and so did the future, limitless, wild, and his.